such a crucial topic, water management challenges, balancing between too little and too much. I'm Veronica Casartelli from the Euro-Mediterranean Center on Climate Change. I will give you some introductory words, and then I will introduce and leave the floor to our distinguished panelists. So water is a fundamental resource that will be affected by climate change impacts more and more in the near future. I don't know if you had already had the opportunity to look at the first European Climate Risk Assessment report. It was published yesterday, and you will find a lot on water management issues, depending on climate and non-climatic drivers and spreading across different sectors. So water is for sure a top adaptation priority. We need to work on our integrated water management framework. We need to adapt, to improve, and to transform them, as we have discussed yesterday and this morning. And meanwhile, we are facing more and more water-related hazards and disasters. This morning, Stefano, and yesterday, the European Commission showed some pictures related to the Emilia-Romagna floods of last year. Just to point out that it was the first time that Italy requested for international assistance to the Union Civil Protection Mechanism for a flood event. So it was the very first time. And after Italy, Slovenia and Greece, just to mention some other major floods of last year. So I think that the climate services can help us a lot in tackling these new water management challenges that we will have to face in the near future. And let's discuss this topic with our distinguished panelists. So thank you very much for being here and accepting our invitation. So we have the pleasure to have with us today Carlo Giupponi from Ca' Foscari University of Venice, Nikos Kondras, Global Water Partnership, Mediterranean, and Francesco Tornatore from the Po River Basin District Authority. So I will invite Carlo Giupponi to give the first presentation. He's a professor of environmental economics at Ca' Foscari University of Venice.
That we released several months ago, actually. It was quite an interesting, as all these assessment report, it was based on voluntary contributions by many colleagues. And I was lead author of the chapter about water with Dr. Marianella Fader. So let's move straight into the topic with some sort of quotations that I took from this assessment report, the MAR1, as we call it. And of course, if you look at the Mediterranean and you are thinking about water, what you see is any sort of imbalances. The imbalances between the north and the south, you see 72 to 74% of the resources are located in the north of the Mediterranean. But if you look down, for example, you find that the population is instead reversed in terms of distribution. And there is also something quite peculiar here that doesn't happen in many other places, which is the use of non-renewable water. So water is by definition a renewable resource, but not always, because in the Mediterranean, in the south, we use a lot of fossil water that is not renewable. So other peculiar issues, the transboundary feature of the thing. So the fact that in southern and eastern Mediterranean, more than 60% of the surface water is transboundary. So other issues that build up. And of course, if you look at the distribution of population and distribution of water resources, you will end up with a substantial problem of water scarcity in several countries. 80 million people being in water scarcity and in extreme water scarcity, 80 million in extreme water scarcity. So a substantial number of people living in the Mediterranean with these problems. If you look at the sectoral use of water, again, you may see that in the case of France, Italy, and Spain to some extent, and Slovenia, you see those bars with cooling water being important for industrial purposes, but the rest of the Mediterranean is very much showing the majority of water being used for agriculture. So this is the other, I would say, important features. In some cases, also households is very important, but agriculture is the main user indeed. In terms of sources, as I said, importation is quite peculiar, if you like. And then the withdrawal or non-renewable resources. So there are those orange portion of the graphs that show those places where fossil water is used. So again, I go through picking some interesting messages as much as I can. And then looking at the biogeochemical cycle of water in the Mediterranean, evapotranspiration being 90% of consumption of total annual rainfall. Of course, if you look into a climate change perspective, you know that again, rainfall, the signal is not so evident, but temperature for sure will increase, and therefore the consumption by evapotranspiration will substantially increase, and as a consequence, soil moisture is expected to decrease, and therefore drought is expected to become more frequent, as other phenomena like a reduction of in annual runoff, and these combination of things may lead to also increasing problems, if not constant problems of flood, for example, if you look from an environmental perspective, a climatic perspective, but with increasing soil sealing, the problem is expected again to increase. So a series of messages talking about exacerbation of the phenomena in the Mediterranean in an area where the problems are already quite substantial, as we probably will see also in a minute. So water challenges and climate change adaptation. You can see that there are several challenges with sea level rise, talking about the area around the Mediterranean. Saltwater intrusion is a problem indeed. If we would reach at the end of the century substantial increases in temperature, such as 4 degrees, then dramatic changes, as you can expect, are expected, to an extent that we are not sure about the possibility of coping with these trends with adaptation measures. So we could go beyond our capabilities to adapt. Infrastructure indeed are very important. We do have all our traditional approaches, for example, integrated water resources management, but still not always they are fully integrated with the other policies, and in particular climate change adaptation policies. So adding to this, the uncertainty that we have about the future, the risk for maladaptation is substantial, is very, very high. And therefore, what we have to look is for no regret actions on adaptation as a fundamental strategy to cope with these changes. So again, taking from what we wrote in the MAR1, the solutions, as usual, we have a menu of solutions that can go, as usual, on the supply side or on the demand side. Desalination, wastewater treatment and reuse, artificial recharge of groundwater, interbasin transfers, dams, virtual water trade, or from the demand side, efficient water use in households and economic sectors, agricultural management for water conservation, reduction of water losses. I named all of them just because in this community focused on climate services, you could already have a series of stimuli for understanding what kind of services are needed here with this kind of situation and with these potential solutions. So again, without adding anything to what is written in the MAR1, I took a few sentences. The first is about early warning systems. So there is indeed a need for better and more and covering the whole area, I mean, early warning systems. Adaptation strategies are there, but we need more integration. Sectoral co-design climate services is the term that we used in the report to reduce the links, for example, of negative side effects. Nevertheless, I mean, unfortunately, anyway, at the moment, the level of climate services that are offered by scientific or professional communities is indeed insufficient. Given the relevance of water uses for agriculture, indeed, agricultural sector and food in particular has to be seen as probably the main destination of these services, which again gives us an idea about which direction we could take. So this was a very quick run through the contents of the MAR. I will take maybe 2 more minutes, okay, to mention something that with the Yara, we have very recently published a paper about the 20th anniversary of the Mulino DSS. You see the logo there. We proudly, in a sense, mention this because there are not so many tools developed with European projects that are still alive after more than 20 years. This is a decision support system. Now, since I have a very little time, what I wanted to drive your attention to is the last part of this slide on what we call the MDSS experience. So one of the reasons why this tool, which is a piece of software, actually survived for more than 20 years is not only our effort to keep it alive, but probably, as we analyzed in our recent paper, the fact that we lost a series of functionalities that are typically introducing rigidity in this kind of software. So we kept the decisional part, we kept the multi-criteria, we kept the DPSIR analysis, but we lost more and more those, for example, live links with models. So this is not good in a sense, but this is probably a reflection to be made. Our tools should probably have this modularity to allow the tool to be more flexible and also be adaptable to for example, the needs that come from the evolution of legislation in the country and in Europe. And I will stop here because I'm afraid the time is over.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. It was a very rich presentation, and I fully agree with this part on the need for flexibility to sustain the tool in the long term. So thanks a lot. I will invite now Nikos Skondras from the Global Water Partnership, Mediterranean, sorry. He's a senior program officer with more than 10 years of experience on environmental management, integrated water resource management, and water research and research. He previously worked on EU-funded projects at the Agricultural University of Athens in Greece, and he holds a PhD on water resource management and decision-making. The floor is yours. Thanks.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting GWP Med in this event. I believe it's one of the few events that they're not dedicated fully to water that we participate. And it's one of the rare occasions that I go completely PowerPointless on this case, because if I had prepared something compared to what I've heard the last day and today, I would have to adapt, and that would, with a PowerPoint, I wouldn't have that opportunity. So I will continue from where Carlo almost stopped his presentation about the Mar 1 report on the quality of the offered climate services to the various Mediterranean countries. The report says that this quality and quantity is insufficient. So after the, let's say, the report was published in 2020, if I'm not.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So the point is, where are we standing almost 4 years after this publication? From what we heard in the previous day and today, the progress is advancing with high rates. For example, we have projects that are dedicated to climate services, projects that are dedicated to adaptive capacities. We have projects that try to reach more people in terms of the benefits of climate services. So that says that we are progressing. And yet there are cases, and I will present one, that we may see that we are not fast enough in uptaking all this progress. Let me give you this example. Veronica said about the floods in Greece in 2023. In fact, in mid-2023, Greece awarded a tender to a contractor about covering nationwide the country with climate service equipment, including agrometeorological stations, drones, satellite image processing, and of course, early warning system in terms of high probability of rainfalls. Some months later, Greece lost 25% of its agricultural production just by the rainfall of one day. That rainfall was, in terms of quantity, the quantity of 1 year. And apart from losing this 25% of production, we lost the capacity of regenerating this loss for at least 3 to 5 years. So the technology was there. The process was there. The knowledge was there. And yet the problem was that the uptaking of this experience, collected experience, was too slow. We're discussing about climate change impacts for at least 15 years or more. Even Horizon 2020 was still on FP5, FP6, when we started discussing about climate change. So instead of showing something or adding an example on the advancements of climate services, I would like more to ask questions to you, to make this presentation like interactive, like a World Cafe, like the ones we have after the presentations and the panel discussions. So one question that comes to mind, and it's something that I understood by participating in the World Cafes the last 2 days, was why, even though we have so many projects, so many advancements, why the uptaking is too slow? This is one question. The second question is, yes, we have so many projects. We have so many technologies available. We have so many data that, even I don't know if someone can follow the progress of data collection and processing. Why are those projects still remain in a drawer? Why there are no hubs in the countries that could translate those, collect those projects, translated it to the national and regional and local authorities on what to, how and what to implement. GWP implements, takes the results of your projects and implements it in the small or large scales, with funds coming from private sector, from foundations, etc., coming from ranging from 300 to 300,000 USD to 1.5 or 2 million USD. So even us, that we are in this game, it's difficult to identify potential solutions from what you have developed, what has been developed in the last 10 years, let's say. So why we have this gap between completing a project, having useful results, and then go to a next project? So this is something that as GWP, we need an answer to that, because when we come to in contact with the local authorities, with the regional authorities, we need to present solutions. And the other, and my final question is, when we come in contact with the local authorities or the region or the people, they're not persuaded about climate change. They're not persuaded about the benefits of the tools of the advancements that are made here and in the last years. This, of course, it's not about blaming anyone, probably, but it's something that perhaps is a domain that we should focus from now on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nikos. I think you will have also the opportunity to discuss more in detail during your table. You will have a dedicated table during the work affair. Thanks a lot. And now I will give the floor to Francesco Tornatore from the Po River Basin District Authority. He is the head of Sector 3 of the authority, focused on planning and management of the issues of the water resource. And he was previously the head of the organizational position regarding the regulation of the discharges and protection of the waters of the Emilia-Romagna regions. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. Well, Italian territory is divided in 5 basin districts, to which we need to add also the district of Sicily and Sardinia. The Po River district is the greatest district in Italy, and probably is the most important from economic, social, and political point of view, because the district includes 3 different nations: Italy, Swiss, and French. And we have 8 regions in our district, more than about 20 million of inhabitants, the 37% of national industries, the 55% of livestock industries, and the 35% of farms. In our district, we produce about the 50% of Italy GDP. So it's a very important from many points of view, our territory. Obviously, the abundance of water is one of the fundamental elements of this great development. The average annual precipitation in our basin is about, in the period of 1991-2000, was about 919 millimeters. And if we consider the whole district, the average annual inflow volume was about 86 billion cubic meter. And of these, about 48 millions are conveyed to the sea by the Po River, while the remaining 38 billions represent the sum of the evaporated volumes, infiltrated volumes, and volume used by plant activity. According to the global and regional climate forecasting models, the district is located between a climate transition zone between Mediterranean and Northern Europe, where uncertainty about the future climate is higher than in other European areas. What does it mean, this? We have also had a very different, a greater variability of meteorological and hydrological situation. But since 2000, this variability is exploded. So we have had in the last 7 years 7 years with a great difference between rainfall and hydrological balance in front of the average data. So if we look at the variability in the same year, we can see that there is a great variability in the precipitation for the period from March to September, in which we have had a great reduction of rainfalls. So in the 1922, we have had probably the most important drought of the last 20 years. We have had only 56 billions of cubic meter of inflow in that year. So all the climate indicators recorded for the year 2022 have exceptional values compared to the reference average. The flow rates of the Po River in this year, from the beginning of June to the end of September, were constantly below the 450 cubic meter per second. And this led to an extensive soft intrusion that undermined the irrigation through the delta area. But this was not only due to the scarcity of water in that year, because in the same year, we have had a great increment of withdrawals. Normally in our basin, we have about 23 billion cubic meters of water that are withdrawn every year for each use. Obviously, the large part of the withdrawals are related to the use of irrigation, about 15 billion of cubic meters. Here you can see the main district characterized by the volume of water used. And it's clear that the areas where there is the rice production is characterized by the greatest use of resource, about 5 billions of water only for the production of rice in our basin. So in the 2022, we have of 8 billions of cubic meter of water withdrawn. And this produced a great problem with the flow rate in the Po River, because the problem of 450 cubic meters of flow rate in Po River was related also to the withdrawals, obviously. During the same period, from June to September, we have about 500 cubic meters of withdrawals active in our basin, in front of a flow rate of Po River of only 450 cubic meters. And in 24 of July, we have measured the lowest flow rate in Ponte Lago Scuro of 114 cubic meter per second. And this situation has been, this has been the situation until May of 2023, when the scenario completely changed. In fact, in the days from 16 to 17 of May, we have had on the Romagna region, which is a part of Emilia-Romagna, one of the most important floods of last years. In only 4 days, from the first event of 1 to 3 May and the second event of 16 to 17 May, we have had in this territory the 50% average annual precipitation in the Emilia-Romagna region. in some station we have measured about 400 millimeters of rainfall in only 24 hours. That's why we have an important, very important flooding in this area, with all the hydrographic network involved, both natural and artificial. But this was not unexpected, because this kind of scenario, if we look at the maps of the risk maps produced as a part of our risk management plan, we realize that this scenario had been predicted, as you can see. And why this? Because in the plan, we know that the areas at significant and potential risks largely concern dammed rivers. And we have in our basin about 1,100 kilometers of embankments along the Po River, 1,500 kilometers of embankments along the main tributaries of Po River, and 1,500 kilometers of embankments along Romagna rivers. So all this system of embankments is a problem because we know that the construction of embankments has two effects. It increases the flood levels and increases the risk due to new buildings. So this means that the result of construction of an embankment produces the increase of risks and not the decreasing. But this was an effect well known since the 1952, because if we read what Giulio De Marchi, who is the chairman of Parliament Commission set up after the Polesine floods, in the 1952, he says that the magnitude of floods, as well as intensity of the rains and all natural phenomena that escapes any human control, do not admit upper limits that are certainly identifiable. Traditional defensive tactics do not consider the exceptional event that exceed the forecast. Embankments alone cannot be the definitive and safe solution to problem floods protection. So it was a really well-known problem. So if we want to produce an adaptation to the climate change, it's obviously that we need to change our strategy. It's true, we have knowledge, we have solution, but probably we have a political, and economical, and cultural problem, which is very important to change our cultural problem, because it's the only way to improve our capacity to produce positive effect to climate change. And that's why we are involved now as a Po River Basin Authority in this important life project, which is called Climaxpo. But about Climaxpo, we'll speak after Paolo Leoni, okay?
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. It was a really insightful discussion. Maybe so we start with the Mediterranean scale. So very well described what we are expecting in the near future. Then we downscaled these scenarios at this river basin district scale, let's say, which is you very well described that the Po River Basin district is one of the most important ones in Italy. Both from an environmental, but also from a socio-economic perspective. And then the importance on how to improve the uptake of scientific and technological outcomes in our strategy, how to integrate those outcomes in our plans and strategies. So I will now open the Q&A session. So I will invite the audience. Yeah.
Thank you. So you asked us for some answers about why people are not using this information. Some work that we were doing about how to communicate uncertainty. One of the main findings is that we need to put the user at the center of the things that we develop. So to understand what are the challenges that they face and to present them with information that's relevant to their needs. And then go some way to understand their existing narratives of how they understand climate change, and then work with those to co-produce solutions that has the user at the center.
Thank you. Nikos, would you like to react to this comment?
Thank you for the comment. And having the people in the center is, I believe, it's the most essential domain for this type of projects. For example, there is an example with a city in Greece where about their climate. It's one of the 100 cities that have signed the climate contract with the European Union about achieving carbon neutrality in by 2030. What they did, we were amazed to know about that. They asked the school children to prepare a list of potential solutions. Children. Those children tomorrow will have the ownership of the solutions. They will care about the solutions. They will continue this tradition. This is why we need to have people in the center, as you said.
Thank you. Another question here.
Yes, good afternoon. I have a question for the Po River Authority. It's quite a curiosity, actually, as you showed that traditionally engineering in Italy has played a major role in designing and constructing embankments and had probably a good effect to some extent. Now we are seeing some difficulties. What is, in your perspective, the new role of engineering to cope with the challenges that we are facing now?
Well, it's clear that the engineerization of territory is not the solution, cannot be the solution. Probably we need to change our perspective. We need to improve systems, more natural system in our management of water. That's why we are now involved in some project as the renaturalization of Po River, which is a project financed by the PNRR. And are many years that we are trying to improve this kind of way of manage the water in our basin. We have promoted the construction of many new areas of naturalized areas for the expansion of the floods, for example. But we need to do always more than this. We need, as I said before, a cultural, we need to change our kind of point of view. It's a cultural problem, maybe. Surely it's a cultural problem, but we are trying to do it.
Thank you. We have another question there. Yes.
I'm sorry, I think that is another philosophic question, and probably it's good for the all of you. And do we need more engineering or more governance at this point?
It would be nice to have the view of all of you.
Well, the problem of governance is a great problem, but it's not a problem that we can solve at local level. This is a problem, it is a national problem. In the management of water, there are a lot of subjects which are involved in the management. We have very different system, very distributed system from the central government to the regional government to the municipality government to many other subjects. So it's very hard now to find the right way to have a very balanced management of water because there are too many subjects involved. So probably it's a problem of governance, but we need to change at the national level. This is the great problem. This is not simple solution, in my opinion.
I agree with that as well, because it's mainly a water governance issue but as we heard that it needs to be addressed at a higher level. When it comes to engineering, the knowledge, as I said before, the knowledge is there, but what we can do, as you said about the naturalization, Prima has now published a call about farming systems focusing on ancestral hydrotechnologies. Italy was one of the countries that in terms of ancestral hydrotechnology grew miracles in the past. So perhaps when we say about engineering, perhaps we should go back, reassess if the knowledge exists, because the knowledge as what according to a conference that was made on ancestral hydrotechnologies, great percentage of that knowledge is lost, how they were built, how they were operating. And perhaps we should reassess this opportunity in terms of engineering.
Okay, my turn. Of course, the easy answer is we need both, indeed. But it's not enough, I would say. So it's really, we have to really understand the whole path that starts from the identification of a problem, like the problems we are discussing here, and the implementation of the solution. And we have really a cascade of causal links, I would say, if we want to, if we have the ambition to be able to, in fact, manage all these links. And each of these steps, we have problems that can really stop the process of solving the problem. And of course, we can be optimistic about engineering solutions that we may say we do have them. And the governance probably has a greater relevance in many cases because we are not able to implement, find resources and manage these solutions. So the meaning that I was going to give to this both is that we have really to understand the system that we want to deal with and the system of elements that may allow us to find solutions. And we can stop, as I was saying, in many places. It's good that we mention ancestors' knowledge, but of course, I'm sure you didn't want to say that we have to go back and forget about what we have now. So it's really the combination of all these things. One element that I think is really very relevant is our capability to imagine the future under uncertainty, because this is another very strong limitation. If we cannot imagine the future or better futures, we cannot even communicate our solutions. So there I see, so probably a third problem besides the two that you have mentioned that probably affects dramatically our capabilities to solve the problems, also because this limits a lot our capability to communicate. So I see that as another very, very important directions that we have to take, capabilities to imagine the future, and probably as important as imagining the future is imagining the pathways to go towards the future, which is another very important issue. Also to raise the support of citizens in ending up in a preferred future, I would say.
Thanks a lot. Any other question from the audience? I really appreciated this last part. I fully agree with this discussion. So we needed to assess, to understand our capabilities, the transmission pathways, to understand in which way we can implement transformation changes. And then we needed to imagine and to communicate the possible futures and to engage also the public and all relevant stakeholders, because this is something that we need to do together with a whole of society approach, let's say. So if there are no other questions, I really would like to thank the panelists, because it was a really good discussion with an insightful presentation. So thanks a lot. And I will now invite the pitch presenters to join me. So let me introduce the presenters. Thank you for being with us today. We have Paolo Leoni from the Po River Basin District Authorities. He's an environmental engineer, and he collaborates on the technical activities of the Permanent Observatory for the water uses in the Po River District and on the water management plan. Cinzia Alessandrini, thank you, Cinzia, for being with us, from Emilia-Romagna Agency for Environment Protection and Energy. She is the head of the Climate Observatory of the Emilia-Romagna region, and she previously had the position of the European Project Liaison at the Interregional Agency for the Po River. And welcome, Alexandra. Thank you for being here. Alexandra Kric from the Republic Hydromet Service of Serbia. She's a meteorologist in Serbia within the National Climate Change Center. She participated in preparation and implementation of many international projects related to climate and drought. So thank you very much. I will give you the floor, 5 minutes pitch presentation, and then we can have some Q&A. Thank you. Paolo.
I have my... Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. No?
Okay. Cinzia, if you... Okay. All right. Thank you for the floor, and good afternoon, everyone. And as we know, we have 2 ways to fight the climate change. The first one is mitigation. The second one is adaptation. Climax Po is a European project, is based on adaptation strategies. The project framework is climate change impacts, and in particular, the Climax Po was generated by NAS, National Adaptation Strategy, was adopted in Italy 2015, and NAS identified the Po River Basin District area as a national special case and pilot area due to, or thanks to, for the production of the 40% of the Italian gross domestic product. The partnership of this project is composed by many public bodies at different scale, national, regional, local, but also we have a private body and environmental association. The lead partner of this project is Po River Basin District Authority, and the duration of this project is 9 years. It started in 1st February 2023, and it will end in January 2032. The budget for this project is amount 18 million euros. These are the five main specific objects. Governance of adaptation at the Po River Basin District level, share the climate knowledge production, building capacity and awareness, improving water security and climate resilience, and last but not least, institutionalization of climate adaptation at the Po River Basin District level. On these are the five specific objectives on which all activities, all project activities are based on. The project is divided in 11 work packages, but you can imagine easily the structure of this project as a building in which the climate change is a root, and the four pillars are water resource management, nature-based solutions, extreme events, early warning, and adaptation of agrosystems. The roof of this building is communication. We have many communications activities to explain, to share, to know the different activities that the project provides. Climax Po now has collected 450 million euros of projects activities complementary. Thanks to them, to them, we will achieve the main objectives of this project. We have a big stakeholder group with 145, including bodies and institutions that operate abroad and in territories outside the Po River District. We have divided this stakeholder group in 6 specific teams: management of water resource, nature-based solutions, climate change, communication, extreme events and warning, and adaptation of agrosystem. I think that my time is over and my presentation too, and I would to say thank you with a great quote of Charles Darwin, and this is a 3 picture of the kickoff meeting of this project and the second meeting of this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great. The floor is yours, Cinzia.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. And today I'm here to show you which climate service we are providing to our users. So in this context, today I speak as a provider and not as a user. In particular, the climate service that we provide is named ICOLT, and is a climate service based on crop irrigation demand forecast for Emilia-Romagna region. Beginning from some simple questions. So, what is it? This climate service is fundamentally a tool that is used from water managers, okay? And why we can provide this service is to support the decision-making process on how to allocate water during, of course, water scarcity events, because you know that, for example, in Italy, in our region, that is devoted to agriculture in all the plain part, during summer we have a lot of water scarcity events, sometimes some drought events very huge, and so we have to manage water and to deal with the competition for water use. And how can we provide this climate service? Through 3 forecasts of crop water demand. In particular, the first one is using the seasonal forecast. So using the 3 months forecast predictions for the Emilia-Romagna region. Then we developed also a sub-seasonal forecast, so for the next 4 weeks, and a weekly forecast, so for the next 7 days, for some specific areas of Emilia-Romagna, in particular 3 land reclamation boards areas, Burana, Renana, and Romagna, land reclamation boards. Which data input we use? We begin using a crop map obtained with the satellite data. So maybe after I will show you better how the crop map is built. Then we use the regional soil map and meteorological data before the observed data, and then the weather forecast data, so seasonal or sub-seasonal. This is the forecast chain. So we begin in October to build this climate service, and we end at the end of the summer. Okay, so during October, November, February, and March and April, we choose and select some satellite images that represent the crops in the field in our region. Okay, and then we do in these periods also field surveys to have the ground truth in the ground. Then with all this data, we produce using an algorithm, an early crop map. And then we fill our agronomic model, that is water balance model for soils to simulate the content of water in the soils. So we feed with the crop map, the probabilistic seasonal forecast, and then we produce the seasonal prediction of irrigation and the water needs. So I forgot to say that the seasonal forecast is for the summer period, so June, July, and August. This is an example of our outputs, and in particular, on the right side, you can see the box plot with the quantiles of our forecasts, and in the red dots, we can validate our forecast with the real irrigation needs that have been registered, okay, after the season. So as you can see, except for 3 or 4 years, the other years, the performance is quite good. In the left side of the slide, you can see the platform that has been developed during the Highlander project, in which we supply 3 consortia, 3 reclamation boards in Emilia-Romagna with sub-seasonal precipitation and irrigation forecast all year long. This is another example of outputs. And what I would like to show you is the difference between 2 years in which we reached 2 different extremes. In 2022, in Emilia-Romagna, there have been a big drought. Okay, so you can see the map that is yellow and red due to the anomaly of irrigation need that is a positive anomaly. So I need more water, okay, than the normal. In the right part, we see the year of the big flood that we spoke a lot of times in these days. And for the summer 2023, as the flood have been in May, you see all the map in blue colors. So the anomaly was negative. We don't need a lot of water for irrigation because the water content in the soil is enough. My final thoughts for our climate service that I would like to share with you are some weaknesses and some strengths. For the weakness, for example, is the static representation of the agriculture current maps, and only until May without an in-season update. So an improvement that we can do is a refinement of the early crop map during the irrigation season. This could be an improvement that we would like to develop in the next months. And some strengths, for example, are the low-cost maintenance and, for example, the documented and reliable operational chain. So it means that it's replicable in other territories. And for example, we are collaborating with the Po River Basin Authority in order to extend this climate service to the entire Po Basin district. Okay, now we began to extend to 3 other provinces out of Emilia-Romagna that corresponds to the NUT 3 for European level. And we hope to continue extending for the whole Po Basin this service for agriculture and water needs. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Cinzia. Alexandra?
Thank you.
Just one moment. One moment.
Hi, thank you. I would like to present you the Aspect project. So it's a Horizon Europe project started in January last year. Here you can see all 11 partners involved. Well, the user needs regarding climate information, and providing climate predictions tailored to those needs, as well as a co-creation of use cases with super users and upscaling findings from those case studies to the wider communities are the main focus of the Aspect project. Here today, one of the super users are here. It is Emilia-Romagna municipality from Meteo. Oh, you are great. We will discuss later. So that is nice. Okay. Then, okay, you know, there are a lot of examples that the decisions are being made on different time scales, like in water management, in agriculture, urban planning, energy, financial sector, and there are many others. So this implies there is a need for consistent predictions on all time scales from months to decades. That means there is a need for a seamless prediction. Currently, there are seasonal forecasts up to 6 to 7 months ahead and decadal forecasts up to 10 years ahead. But timescales needed for developing adaptation and mitigation strategies are more than 10 years. It is usually 10 to 30 years. And initialized climate predictions in on those timescales are rarely attempted. And we had a discussion this morning in one of the tables that is quite what is missing for the local community. That's why Aspect will produce initialized climate predictions up to 30 years in advance to fill the gap between decadal predictions and climate projections. Similarly, we will extend the seasonal forecast to cover the interannual timescales from seasonal to decadal predictions. So the key innovation in the Aspect project is to provide climate predictions on those timescales where there are currently gaps, and to merge information on all timescales into a single time series. All the experiments will be conducted with existing climate models as well as new improved climate models. Additionally, we will create larger ensembles and multimodal ensembles in order to get more accurate information in the future on the future climate. So besides the different temporal scales, users need information on different spatial scales. For example, for assessing climate risk or adaptation and mitigation planning on country or municipality level, over river catchment, or even over for a single asset. As you probably know, global climate models have limitation in reproducing the local and regional climate due to sparse resolution. And so we want to make information more relevant for some specific geographical regions, and we will employ different downscaling methods. Downscaling will also improve the physical quality of the information, and it will help the prediction of extreme weather events, which is of great importance for civil protection and damage reduction. Currently, most products from seasonal and decadal predictions give some overview information on average conditions, and the scale of extreme weather and climate events are rarely studied. So that area will also be the focus of the Aspect project, and it will employ some new novel methodologies. Data from seasonal, extended seasonal forecasts will be available through ECMWF Mars Archive, while the decadal, extended decadal, and 30 years initial climate outlooks will be available through ESGF portals. The outputs, all the outputs of the project will follow the widely accepted standards and FAIR principles, like metadata structure, data formats, and other standards that are used in climate data stores. And this will enable that all the services produced and the relevant data sets produced by the project can be easily incorporated in C3S. So please visit our webpage. There you can find the registration form for our mailing list. In that way, you will get the latest information on Aspect project and about the events we are organizing, like user forums. I would like to advise you to take a look of the recording of the last user forum. We had it at the end of January. Then we have explained seamless predictions and all the activities in the Aspect project in more details. You can find recordings on our on the Aspect YouTube channel. Also, please follow us on the social media, and please join me after the break on the table 3 to discuss user needs in more detail. Thank you.
Thanks. We have time for 1 or 2 questions from the audience. Yeah, one over there.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Fabio Paglione, and I work for Burana Land Reclamation Board. We are a local agency which use the climate service you have seen in the presentation of Cinzia Alessandrini by Arpae. Just a few words in addition, because at the beginning of the irrigation season, we use their products to have an idea of what will be next irrigation season. I mean, above all about the forecast in how much water in plus or minus we have to deliver for agriculture world. We can have an idea of what will be our activities, because land reclamation boards operate to defend the territories against floods, above all during the winter season. Even if last year in May, it was a disaster. And during the irrigation season, we use water, taking it from rivers, natural rivers, to deliver these resources for agriculture. And it's very important in order to maintain all the crops in energy, to make possible the all agricultural world and business to develop. So their system is very, very useful in order to do this, because I have said, but I prefer to repeat one more time, we can have an idea of what will be the next irrigation system in plus and minus about water to do for crops. That's it.
Thank you. It's nice to see that the climate service is
The point of view of the user is
Yeah.
very important, in my opinion.
yeah, just to clarify that Water Reclamation Board in Italy play a very crucial role in water management, have a huge responsibility. So thanks a lot for your comment. And we have a question from the audience here. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. I have a question on this aspect project regarding the, you mean that you're doing also extreme events downscaling. And do you have a resource or a case studies, and how are you somehow taking into account the fact that probably the events, the extreme events are increasing in frequency and intensity?
Yes, there are 2 or 3 partners that are dealing with extreme events, and they have some special case studies about viticulture and urban extreme precipitation events. And they will do the downscaling on the formation, I think on 3 kilometers to test if it's.
But is this available on this website?
Not yet. We are quite in the beginning. We are still, this first year, we were collecting all the available information available from the modeling world and from the projections, what is all the forecasts and predictions that are already existing to see the current state and also to see what are the user needs. So we are still collecting all the user needs from the super users, and we have a questionnaire that Sam is going to talk about tomorrow. Like super users are our users that we are working with concretely. We have 5 different super users from different sectors. It is agriculture, viticulture. We have Emilia Romagna, like a governmental an agency. Then we have a financial sector, pension sector. Then we have 2 new. We have a concourse. A British Red Cross and protect, save the children from Africa, that is humanitarian sectors. And we will gonna work with them concretely to find out what is needed for them from the modeling, from the predictions and projections to create some kind of services. Then later we will work also with the National Med Services and other institutions to find out how those findings from those case studies can be upscaled and can be used in the wider audience. But still, there is no on the website that you're asking because we are in the very beginning of the project.
Thank you.
Thank you. I saw one last question, maybe quick questions over there before. Was there, but no, they changed mind. Okay, so before leaving you to the coffee break, I will give you an overview of the tables for the next work-off session. So we will have 5 tables. Table 1 on bridging gap, data gap for risk and anticipatory action, led by Nadia Leonova. Nadia, are you with us? Yeah, over there, thanks. Table 2, bridging the gap, how climate services can raise knowledge and awareness starting from school, led by Maria Elisa Zuppiroli, Area Europa. Yeah, hi. Table 3, focus on aspect project, so use cases and user requirements for climate forecasts by Alexander. Table 4 on conservation and sustainable development of coastal wetlands with high ecological value, led by Nikos. And the last one, table 5 on decision support for water supply planning for integrated water services and hydroelectric companies, led by Matteo Dell'Amico, WaterJ. So the format will be exactly the same of yesterday and this morning. Try to rotate on the table. So every 30, 35 minutes, try to change at the table. So you will have the opportunity to engage with more discussions with the different institutions, research center and the public authorities. And I would like to thank you once again, because in very short time, you will provide us with a lot of useful information, and we will follow your projects in the near future. Thanks a lot.